Making Amir normal, scene 1.
Hey, you shouldn't have yelled at him like that, man.
Marking.
How's that for a normal conversation?
Wasn't.
Who with? Good question.
Didn't ask it.
Den.
Dan?
Den.
Dan?
Den.
Ben?
Den.
Dan?
Den.
Den? I like going back to Dan.
You're closer with Ben, kind of.
Gonna go back to Dan real quick.
Who with? Good question.
Didn't ask it.
Den.
Dan?
Den.
Dan?
Den.
Ben?
Den.
Dan?
Den.
Den?
Dan.
Dine? Din?
Dane.
Dane?
Brian. Richard.
Bran? Ian?
I'm just fucking with you, man. I know it's Dan. Dan.
John? Please, just anything. Be mispronouncing something. I don't want his name to be Den.
Who with? Good question.
Didn't ask it.
Den.
Dan?
Den.
Dan?
Den. Den.
Dan?
Den.
Ben?
Den.
Ben?
Yeah, Den. Den. Den.
Den?
Den.
Fuck, alright.
Let's just call him John.
What's his last name?
Gren.
10 grand. Alright, 10 grand. Wrote a 10 grand.
Amir. Over here, Amir. Vaguely. Cool.
I don't laugh.